Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Thursday, November 13th, 2025, and today we're going to be talking about the state of Tennessee and a new congressional district special election set to take place this coming December, the day before my birthday, December 2nd. We will see that the state of Tennessee, and in specific, this congressional district will hold its special election to replace an outgoing Republican incumbent who's been in this state and in this district since Marsha Blackburn vacated her seat to run for Senate in 2018. This is a solid red district, one that Republicans historically have been very easily able to rely on, and one in the last election that voted for Donald Trump across Tennessee's 7th district by 22 percentage points against Vice President Kamala Harris. And this is a district, like many others across the country, that Democrats never really saw as an opportunity until Donald Trump came back into office. What we know is that this is a district that, if Republican turnout does indeed collapse, Democrats could see some pretty modest gains across the district. While it is ultimately very unlikely that they end up flipping the district, it stands to be the last line of defense for Republicans in the 2025 year, a year that arguably has not gone quite well across the board, whether in House elections, statewide elections, gubernatorial elections, or whatever else might be there. Republicans have been consistently underperforming by an average here of roughly 12 to 13 points nationwide. But in the state of Tennessee, it's going to take Democrats winning more than that in order for this district to swing. It is one of the more solid Republican districts we've seen in terms of special elections this season, but not the most conservative districts that we've seen. Those ring in as Florida's 1st district and Florida's 6th district that held elections in April of 2025, to which the Democrats, like many other parts of this country, saw pretty significant swings across the board. In Florida's 1st district, we saw that this was a race that was previously won by Matt Gaetz in the last election by 34 points. By the time you would reach the special, the Democrats lost it by roughly 15. That's about a 17-point swing, if not more, across the board, about a 19-point swing relative to the last election, and one that is extremely significant. And had the district been any more bluer, could have been a far closer race across the board. And the same thing happened in Florida's 6th district, where Randy Fine went on to win this race. This is a race that was previously won by the Republicans by over 30 points as well in 2024, and this time around was won by the GOP by just about 14 points. And so you can see that, even in the red districts, Democrats make some pretty significant gains. Now, even those districts wouldn't be able to swing over Tennessee's 7th district in favor of the Democrats, but it would certainly give Republicans a run for their money, and given the trend line here over the past year, I wouldn't be shocked if that was the case. These swings also happen in safe districts on the Democratic side as well. In Virginia, we saw the 11th district had a special election in September of 2025, roughly 2 months ago, and it was quite indicative of what we would see in terms of a more and broader statewide shift going into the 2025 gubernatorial race, lieutenant governor's race, attorney general's race in the state of Virginia. And, taking a look at what we saw just on the broad strokes on the level of the last cycle, what you're looking at is, the Democrats in 2024 had a pretty lackluster performance in Virginia, relative, maybe not necessarily lackluster, but not something that they were necessarily proud of. They had underperformed Joe Biden. They had underperformed their 2022 metrics. And so in 2024, they were expecting a more expansive victory. It did not come. And with it, we saw that many of these congressional races also saw some pretty lagging performances across the state, but ones that Democrats exceeded in expectation, not just in the gubernatorial level, but in this special election too, where Democrats gained, roughly 16 points relative to the last election, 16 percentage points across Virginia's 11th. And then it happened again in solid blue Arizona 7th. You might recognize this district with Adelita Grijalva, who was, seen a long time to get sworn in by Speaker Johnson here. But the point is that this is a district that went from being a district won by her father by less than 30 points in the last election, and she won this one by nearly 40. And so what I think here in, Tennessee's district in specific isn't that Democrats are going to win it, but that there certainly could be some element of surprise, looking at this race, looking at how Democrats have been able to take remarkably solid red districts and turn them into ones that resemble more of a toss-up or a lean margin for the GOP really shows that this as a district, when juxtaposed by that of the Florida districts that had elections in April, actually is far bluer than those districts. We could see Afton Bain, who is the Democratic nominee for Congress here in this special election. She serves as a state representative in this state of Tennessee. She could seriously make inroads in this district, though I do not expect her to win it. Now, looking at what we've seen in terms of, okay, how do people take this race? Obviously, there's always the vibes part of elections, but is there any concrete sign that this district might be taking a turn towards the left? Well, today, the reason I'm even making this video is because the Cook Political Report came out with a new analysis that they published, hidden behind a paywall, but nonetheless an analysis that tells us that this district in specific has moved from being safe for the GOP down to likely. And Democrats historically have been able to win in many cases, some of these likely states. There have been plenty of times in 2018, in 2020, and 2022 where, the likely red states end up being some of the ones, and districts, some of the ones that end up being Democratic flips. Even if that isn't necessarily the expectation, it certainly can be, seen as a possibility. And so I think that, looking at the 2026 cycle, looking at what this can tell us, probably a lot, though I do not think that this one in specific is going to be enough there to end up flipping the district. And I do think that as we navigate the remainder of this year and in all of our political analysis, it will be a great one to really average out what we've seen here. Though I do think that Afton Bain probably will outperform Democrats' margin in 2024, roughly by the national average that we're seeing, 12 to 13 points. But we need to know that barring a major overperformance, you're probably not going to see it happen. And so what I also want us to take away from this Tennessee district is depending on what the margin is, it sort of sets the baseline for some of these districts the Democrats could, in theory, target in the future. Right? When you think about what Tennessee's 7th district, as a district Republicans won by 22, if Democrats are competing, let's take another example in another state, such as Iowa, where Ashley Hinson is retiring to run for Senate in this state. And this is a district, the 2nd district, that in 2018 found itself voting with the Democratic Party by a margin here, I guess you're going to say, different district numbers, but roughly similar areas, by roughly 5 points. Yes, it's a redder district now. It was drawn in such a way, but still, this 2nd district is one that, in 2026 is not really on many people's radar. Donald Trump won the district by roughly 10 points, but Ashley Hinson's 15-point margin seems to be deafening enough. The Democrats are seemingly worried and aren't really investing in this 2nd district as much as you might have seen them do so in previous years. In 2026, let's see if we can actually get back to that, hypothetical, what we'll see in the 26 cycle, you really aren't seeing that many Democrats all enthusiastic about the race, and really the expectations here are quite limited. But if Afton Bain can take a 22-point Republican district and narrow it up to be single digits, it stands to reason that a district like this one, that is about 12 points to the left of it on the presidential vote and about 10 points to the left of it on the congressional vote, the Democrats should make an intentional effort at flipping districts like these. Because like I said, in 2018, Democrats flipped a number of safe red districts. What comes to mind, similar to that of Tennessee's 7th, is Oklahoma's 5th district, that we saw went to the Republicans by 20 points in 2016 and 2014, even more significant, 24 points. But 4 years later, and 2 years after the 20-point performance, Democrats would flip this district by roughly a point, not against and in an open race, but against the Republican incumbent. And I think that shows, as much as this race, I think Democrats are still not going to win it, it shows them the degree at which they could compete in some of these districts, invest in some of these districts, try to make an intentional effort in winning some of these districts. Because if it is shown to be possible to narrow it up to X degree, all of the red districts that are less conservative under it stand to be within reasonable chance of victory for Democrats in 2026. And that's what I think this election would be good for, a benchmark of how Democrats can really focus in. But who knows, right? I think Democrats probably have about a 1 in 5 chance at victory here, not because I'm trying to exceed their odds or diminish them. 1 in 5 is not amazing in American politics, but it is odds at victory in a district that in 2024, the Democratic Party's odds at victory in this district were less than 1%. The fact that it is even becoming fathomable that Democrats could swing a district like this one goes to show just how unpopular, one, the President of the United States is, and two, the Republican agenda that comes with it. Democrats wouldn't be eyeing these special election surprises unless they thought it was possible. And what I am reminded of, though, is that as much as I'm naysaying here on the side of Afton Bain, I do remember that it was the race that got Connor Lamb into office in 2018. That was a victory for him, not in an easy district. He was drawn to be in a much easier one. But he won in Pennsylvania's 18th congressional district. That in 2016, we can see here, I guess, new districts, so different results here. Let's go back to what we see in terms of the special election. What you need to know, though, is that this is a district that Donald Trump won in the previous election by 20 points. And so to see that this 18th district, we can actually look at it just on the congressional level. The last time it was contested, let's see, maybe it was 2012, maybe even then, we saw the Republicans win it by, nearly 30 points, 28 points. In 2018, it took a special election for Connor Lamb to defeat Rick Saccone by a very narrow amount, right? Like roughly less than 1,000 votes across the district in a special election that took place. But Democrats were able to do it in a Trump plus 20 district, and they shocked the nation in doing so. And it set the standard for what 2018 would be. It showed Democrats what was possible when they invested heavily, even in some of the less beneficial districts, because it showed that the energy and the enthusiasm could oftentimes carry them across the finish line when nobody was paying attention. And as much as this race was, very much closely watched, it was a toss-up race. The expectations here were not, super great for the Republicans given their track record, but Donald Trump endorsed Rick Saccone. This was a very big thing for him. This was the first real true test of the administration in a district over a year into Donald Trump's presidency. A lot of the special elections that had been warning signs took place just months into the administration. And so there was less about voters being willing to give Donald Trump a chance and more of them using this as an opportunity to punish the president of the United States for his unpopular agenda and the way at which he approached electoral and American politics. And we saw that in the 18th district, that was on full display. So maybe Democrats could replicate that in December of 2025, but it is going to be tough. There is no doubt about it that Republicans start out as the very clear and immediate favorites in Tennessee's 7th district, but it stands to be a race that Democrats should still look at as a benchmark and as a baseline. And depending what their overperformance is, and because I know for a fact there will be an overperformance in this race, it will tell us what Democrats should do as they navigate the upcoming year ahead. Because this will be the last major special election we'll see, save Mikey Sherrill's, replacement race that will take place sometime next year. But it's still a pretty solid, Democratic district. We'll just see the extent at which Democrats outperform. But when it comes down to Tennessee in specific here, this is a district that Donald Trump won by 22. It will be very difficult for Democrats to win it. But they should still invest. And they should still look at this race as an opportunity, not even necessarily to win, maybe, because they probably won't. But to really understand, one, what inroads can you make in some of these rural and Republican districts? What inroads can you make in off-year elections? How can you engage electorates in times where nobody is thrilled by, either the Democratic Party or the Republican Party nationwide? And what does it look like investing in a district Trump won by over 20 points? And how close do you get to victory? Do you get to victory? Because those will be the lessons that I think Democrats should take away from it. The only question is, will they? The election takes place in just a few weeks. We'll talk about it when it happens. But as it stands right now, Republicans are the favorites, but Democrats have an outsized chance at an upset in Tennessee's 7th district. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video for you to watch and then a playlist for my 2026 House election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.